Hi, hello, welcome to the podcast. It's directly to you. It's episode 227, I think.
You got it.
We do this show every week. It's our freaking podcast. I'm AJ of Redirect. I'm joined by Parker, also of Redirect. We talk about Nintendo and stuff and make videos and whatnot. Except I just talk about Pokemon right now. I have a Pokemon video and a Pokemon short. It's linked in the description. You should check it out. You can support this channel and the all that stuff that we do and whatnot by going to youtube.com/watchredirect or twitch.tv/watchredirect. You get $4.99 of your money or Jeff Bezos's money by going to your Amazon Prime account, linking it to your Twitch account. You get a free sub every month, and you just got to renew. You got to remember to renew it because that's what Jeffy B wants in exchange for his monies. I think it's a pretty good deal. In exchange for that, you get loyalty badges, you get free Switch keys from time to time, you get access to supporters only Discord. We record this show most weeks. Last week we didn't do it because I was dying, but I'm back now. You can also go to our Patreon and see all the other cool stuff that we offer there. There's going to be we're gonna add, change, reorganize. At some point we got ideas, but there's stuff on the Patreon right now, and you can get merch and whatnot. Anyways, today we're freaking talking about this year, man. Freaking 2023 stuff's happening.
Last podcast episode we talked about last year, and now we're just looking ahead. There's a whole lot happening this year. I mean, we don't know everything, of course,
Sure.
But I figure let's start with the things that we do know, and then kind of venture into some of the stuff that we think might happen, and then some stuff we hope might happen, and then, I don't know, just go from there. Okay. I mean, that might be all of it. But whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, starting out, we know Fire Emblem Engage is coming out in 15 days now, which is really soon. And so first off on that, any thoughts?
I'm down. I'll play it. Fire Emblem is like a thing that I don't know why I like it. I don't. Because I shouldn't, by all accounts. It should be a game that I very don't like. But I played Awakening on 3DS, and I like that. I played Three Houses on the Switch when that came out, and I like that. So I'm coming to the realization, or not realization. I'm just, I'm here. I like Fire Emblem, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play it.
Yeah. I similarly also like it. Yeah.
Is it similar?
Yeah. No, because mine is to be expected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
for sure. No,
there.
I've got some money on my eShop account that I'll probably use some of it for some games on sale or whatever, but I'm definitely saving just enough to buy it because it's one of those ones where it's I just played Three Houses. I mean, just 3 years ago, but still, feels like just where it's I could skip it, but I think I would enjoy it. And I've got a backlog of games, so I probably wouldn't get it, but. And it's not one Ashley will play with me probably, but because I have money on there, I'm just gonna get it anyway. So that's the, the nice little thing. But yeah, it's who was it? The Digital Foundry, I guess, did a thing, and it runs at 972 docked and just below 720p handheld, but runs really well and blah 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 and looks great and all that stuff. Which we could tell by the footage that it looks great, but that's nice, and when they're saying it looks good, and there are people who are sometimes overly nitpicky and stuff. Actually, to be fair, oftentimes they're not that bad. It's their comment section that's because they'll be this thing runs at 432 sometimes, but it dips down to there every, however often. And then people will be but still,
yeah,
it looks nice, and that's fun. And it looks
neat.
Nice.
That's the part that I care the least about.
True, yes.
But yeah, I was because I watched that video and they were talking about all that stuff about the other Fire Emblem, and I found one of these the part of the video especially funny where it's there's nobody that played that game that didn't realize that game looks terrible, right? And I was like, I had no idea that people thought that this game looked terrible. It just looks like a Switch game to me.
It's one of those
which
where
is
like while
whatever.
yeah, when people said it, there were things that I noticed after people mentioned like the fruit textures are so bad in the market, and then I went to the market and looked at the fruit textures and like, yeah, those are pretty bad, but like wouldn't have paid attention to them or hadn't paid attention to them until then.
I think is the same as not noticing it.
Yes,
because
exactly.
if somebody
totally.
has to point it out to you, like, because people can, the power of suggestion is a very real thing. Somebody could have said that they're the best looking fruit textures ever, and people would have went back and looked at the fruit textures and be like, yeah, that's a good point. Xbox Series X should invest in these fruit textures. But since they're like, these are the worst ones, people go and they're like, oh yeah, they're pretty bad. It's like,
in terms of, it reminds me, I watched a video, Adam Neely, who does like music educational kind of videos or whatever on YouTube. In one of his most recent videos, he was talking about how like you can basically mix a song in a way just with, if whatever instrument you're showing on screen at the time that it's playing, you don't have to turn it up at all, but somebody just watching it, it turns up in their brain. So like, I mean, power of suggestion wise, same kind of thing. Like if you just point something out, then somebody will like zoom in on it and like pay attention to it. But if you just don't pay attention to it, then it's typically fine.
Exactly.
Like, as long as it doesn't run like butts, like then you're good to go.
Because then you will notice. Like,
and that's annoying.
I think that like, I appreciate what they do as somebody that can separate what they do from how much I enjoy something. But I can't shake the feeling that what they do is damaging, because most people cannot. And this is one of those situations where it's like they kind of like make or break, for better or worse, how people view a game. Like a whole segment of the gaming populace will decide whether they like the video game on the technical side of the video game. Like that's not even the same thing as like a review, which has its own problems. But to be like, I don't think I like this game because these guys told me that this game runs at this frame rate, and that's not cool. So I'm not buying that. It's like it's like a whole different thing from like, I don't think I'm gonna buy this game because like it doesn't look like it's fun, and this guy also said it's not fun. Which is weird.
Tis indeed.
I think I'm down for Fire Emblem Engage. The like, I'm like, I didn't necessarily, I didn't care one way or the other about the like the selling point for Three Houses. I didn't really care like about the three different storylines and all this stuff. It was like, it was just a thing that was there, but I actively don't care about the Engage thing. Like I don't even like I'm sure that a lot of people are like, yay, I get to be Martha again or whatever, right? I don't want to be Martha again. Just give me new people. Like, but
I feel the same way, and I do wonder. I feel like I've heard more people feeling that way than excited
yes, I get
about
to
the
be
fan
Martha
service
again.
side of it. So I am curious. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm curious. Let us know in the comments or whatever. But like, if there's anybody that is really excited about that, the celebration side of it or whatever, and maybe so, I don't know.
I'm sure that there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like Fire Emblem, what is that game called? Fire Emblem Echoes, Heroes is the app, right?
Heroes is the app. You're right. It's Echoes
is the game,
the 2-part one, or
the 3DS
3-part
remake, right? Heroes,
I think so.
That one, people like that. So I mean, granted, a lot of that is waifu, and I'm sure there's waifus in this game too. But man, I don't care. I just want the new video game. I want new people to care about. So we'll see if it does that much. Oh, and the other thing that people are mad about, which I think is dumb, is the male protagonist specifically. They don't like his hair.
The hair.
But I think that's stupid because the female protagonist has the same hair. It's just longer.
It's true.
It's just more of it. It's more of the hair that people don't like. Like, what is that?
Yeah. to be vehemently opposed, I mean, I don't know how vehemently opposed people are to it necessarily, but like to be, more than like a little miffed or whatever is silly. Because yeah, I think like it looks silly, but like so does kind of everything else in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
like,
They look like
it's
Yu-Gi-Oh
fine.
characters. I just think
Yeah.
it's weird to specifically be mad about the male Yu-Gi-Oh character and not the female
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh character.
It's true. But yeah, so that's Fire Emblem Engage coming out pretty soon. And then this isn't in quite chronological order. Actually, it's barely in chronological order. I'm going to do the ones that I do know and then just check the other ones in. Octopath Traveler 2 comes out in February.
That was another game
suspect-
that I forgot
yeah.
existed.
Yeah.
But I just like when I saw that, like, so I think we talked about this before we started recording. So freaking, subscribe on Twitch or Patreon or whatever, and you get the pre-show. But we were talking about how I forgot that Kirby spoilers, Kirby Dreamland,
Yeah.
Return to Dreamland remake, remaster, whatever they are calling it, was coming out. Octopath Traveler 2, I forgot that was coming out, but once I saw it on like a breakdown, I think I was like looked at a Nintendo Life article or something. I was like, oh yeah, that's coming out. But the Kirby, I didn't even have that. I didn't even have to like, oh, Kirby's. It was. I don't even think
Yeah.
either I skimmed past it or it wasn't in the article that I looked at, because it took you saying something and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
So, like, that's happening. But yeah, Octopath.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
You like this game?
I really like the first one. I'm going to probably wait to pick up this one just because, like, at this point, it's going to be probably similar-ish, like similar but better than the first one. But I have Live Alive in my backlog and some other games that, like, I think I'm good to try some more different things first. But for anybody who was interested in Octopath and didn't play it and wants to play it, it sounds like this is the better one to try anyway. I doubt it'll tie much into the story of the first one.
Why?
Because the other one didn't tie that much into the
Why
story of
is
itself.
this one better?
So the main things is like they've just fixed a couple of big criticisms from the first one, which you have 8 different characters that are doing all their stories and stuff, but basically it's like 8 people or like one individual person and battle companions for their story, and then the same for all the other ones, as opposed to like characters joining in somebody else's quest. Like when you're on one person's story, they're the only one that's doing anything at all in there. I personally didn't really care. I was fine with it. But a lot of people were mad that like the stories just didn't intersect. It didn't feel like a party of people like kind of joining together to do these things. It was, whereas this time there will be things where like characters will talk to each other and have storylines together in a way that they didn't before. And so that's like one of the big things, I think, world building wise. And then otherwise, they've just added a couple extra mechanics, I think, as far as I know, for like one of the coolest things was the little overworld things where if you're a thief, you can like go and steal from somebody. If you're the hunter, then you can kind of basically catch Pokemon and use them in battle, and et cetera, et cetera. If you're a you can like sell things as the trader, or I don't remember all of the details. But those were cool. And now each of those have like a daytime and a nighttime version, as well as like a good person and a bad person version stuff. So like, I don't know. It's kind of maybe overly complicated in this one. I don't know, but it was well executed in the first one. So it was fun. So this sounds like just a more refined version of all those things. And yeah, Alex said too, I assume the combat will be more refined. I'd imagine so. I liked the combat in the first one too. So,
Nice.
Yeah, it's a fun little time.
Cool.
So that's Octopath.
I'm a pass.
Then after that, yeah, it makes sense. Then after that, surely enough, like you said, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you ever play this one on the Wii?
Yes.
Wii, right?
Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah.
It was during that era where they realized they're like, oh shoot, we can make Mario 4 players, and then once they did that, they're like, yo, we can make everything 4 players. This was that game. It's fine. I just don't care to play this.
Yeah.
because the only people that I would like see, this is like there's a lot of like multiplayer Nintendo games that like there it's a tier list of like, all right, I have a group of friends that like that are at my house specifically, and we're gonna play video games, and there's easy picks. There's ones that for sure, like we'll get to it when we talk about the games that we play, because there's a relevant story to this.
Nice.
It's like, okay, what does everybody want to play? Suggestions. Let's play Virkin Smash Brothers. Easy first suggestion that always comes up. If Smash Brothers doesn't come up, Mario Kart comes up. If Mario Kart doesn't come up, Mario Party comes up. If Mario Party, there's like a natural succession. I will never get to Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. It will never be on the list. I promise you.
Yep.
So if the only way that I get to play this game is when we're going down this list of like, okay, you want to play this? No. Okay, you want to play this? Okay, you want to play, if I never get to it, then the only time I'm going to is online, because then there are people that are like, there's multiple people that is the game that would be the first thing they suggest.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Whether that be in Twitch chat or a community game night situation or any number of possibilities. Just being in a Discord call and being like, oh, we played this game. We played these top 5 lists of games every day for the past 2 weeks. Let's switch it up a little bit, That will never happen in the very specific situation where I have 4 people at my house that want to play Nintendo Switch,
Yeah. And
so,
it is surprising too, because like
they shot this game in the foot by not making it online multiplayer. IMO.
with all the N64 games, all those can be played online, and that's something that they're obviously adding into. I don't know. So it's just surprising that this is one that they're dedicating specific dev time to this game. How could they not add online in?
Yeah.
Seems weird,
Yeah.
I don't know. For what it's worth, I'm on the other end of that, where like this one, well, actually, so what I'd be curious about, because like I can imagine, Ashley and I would probably play something like this. Whether or not it's exactly this, I think I'll have to figure out, but we'll see in a second. But also we often enough have at least like Ashley's sister over, or friends mentioned Catherine will come over and we'll all play games together, and 100% we're playing the most casual games there are, and it's a grand old time. But what I don't know is like, there's some Kirby games, Star Allies, for example, that are just on the painfully easy side, where it's just not even fun. It's like,
I don't think this game's as bad as Allies
cool.
in that regard.
As long as, because it's fun. Like, I don't know that we've had a lot of games with those groups of people that are like cooperative, kind of like we're making progression together kind of things. And so it would be fun to have something like that. So for this, if it succeeds at that, then it could be a good game to do that with. So
yeah, I think
I'd be more likely to pick it up for sure.
I think it's closer to a Mario level of 4-player multiplayer fun than it is to Star Allies for sure. Yeah. So if you think that people are going to want to play it, then get it. My issue is just people are not going to want to play this. Before any of those other things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's people that come over here a fair amount. It's just like I said, there are people that play video games usually. Yeah. So they're going to suggest video games that are fun for people that play video games to play together. Yeah. Versus like, I play video games and you play video games sometimes, but you're not as good at me at video games. So let's suggest a video game that like is closer to like a equalizer of sorts. It's like we all have played video games on some level for our entire lives. So let's play something that has friction from jump, the Mario Karts, the Smash Brothers, the so on and so forth. So yeah,
makes sense.
Kirby not going.
There you go. So that's that game. Yeah. So and then after that we got Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, which there it is. It's coming out.
This looks like a U game, but
You
You
say
also
that,
don't
and
care about Bayonetta.
I think that's the other big part of it. I've got to watch the trailer again to see how much it looks like a me game, because like it kind of does, but also I'm not sure. So I'll see. I'm not feeling it really right now for what it's worth, but TBD. Maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
But if
I mean,
anything, it feels
ultimately,
more like
I don't think that you should. I don't think that you should or will get it because
Yeah.
you don't care about Bayonetta. But the
Right.
gameplay of it, I could see like an indie game of some sort coming out, and you getting that game and you liking it a lot. But I think
that's true. Honestly, I think the $60 price tag is the big thing for me. If it was, if this was like a $20 or $30 game, then like, yeah, sure.
Yep.
But yeah,
yeah, $60 is nuts. But that's because it's a
tough.
Bayonetta game. So
That's true. So yeah, there's that. And a couple, let's see, before I go into two of the bigger ones that I want to talk about, we've got some other ones that are coming out this year. Blanc is that one.
I'm getting that. I'm down. I'm with
Yeah, me too. That looks so cool. It comes out on Valentine's Day, and it's the one with the little deer and the dog, right? Little dog?
it. Yes. But it's a
And-
deer and a fox, I think.
Is it a fox?
That's a dog, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. So and it's like it tells a narrative but with no words and stuff, blah 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 blah, and it's cooperative and et cetera, et cetera. So that one seems cool.
Truth.
Plucky Squire is that one coming out from, what's his name?
James.
That used to work on Pokemon?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turner?
James Turner,
Maybe?
I think his name. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Mr. Turner, whatever.
I'm
That
down.
one looks cool.
Looks neat.
Yeah. That one looks very cool. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy.
Yes.
You're excited about that one, right?
I'm playing this, and I'm gonna.
Sweet.
I'm tentatively gonna get sweaty. Tentatively. Because I know Lee likes that game competitively. And like still plays it occasionally from time to time. But
Is
now
there
this
still
game,
any
like,
kind of competitive scene for it?
yeah, but it's like in the way that there's a competitive scene for any GameCube game, you know? Like,
True.
most of the like Mario Strikers, the like, baseball game, all that sluggers, all that stuff. Like there's like a competitive scene, but it's not, Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
It's not like a
Equal
League of
to, like,
Legends sort of thing. It's
the,
a few hundred to maybe thousands of people that play this game, and they're like each other's garages and stuff. And that's the extent of it, versus it being like this thing that like hundreds to thousands of people travel to a place every weekend, like a Smash Brothers or like a Dota or any other esport. But
It's more like the speedrun community of certain games as opposed to
exactly.
I mean, because I guess that's like, if you really like a game and it's a single player game, then you speedrun it. If you really like a game and it's a multiplayer game, then like
you
that's the
compete.
equivalent. So this is probably one that I'll
yeah.
download from your
I'm
account
interested.
and then play it there.
I'm probably going to
Yeah.
get it from Capcom, so
Nice.
we'll see. And I'm definitely going to stream it. Especially, I mean, if I get it from Capcom, I'm 1,000,000% streaming it. And I might make a video, but it depends on how into it I get. Like if I like, what I want to do, like ideally what I do is like I feel like the Squirtle video where it's like, I freaking did this tournament thing and that was cool. I want to like see about the competitive scene and then document my experience and make a video. But we'll see. At the very least, I'm gonna stream it though.
Yeah. Nice. Other one, Sea of Stars is coming out this year. And that one looks great. Honestly, that might be the game that gets me to play The Messenger at some point, because apparently it's a prequel to The Messenger and I never played that one. It seemed cool, but just never got around to it. This one seems very up my alley. It's an RPG, kind of looks like some of my favorite RPGs. So, looks fun.
Sick.
And I like it a lot. And then more up your alley specifically. Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life. Right?
Yes.
Up your alley?
I'm going to play this, and I'm going to freaking tell my brother to play it, and we'll see. Because like like with Stardew Valley, I freaking was like, yo, play this game. You're going to like this game. You like freaking Harvest Moon. And he saw it and he was like, this game looks old and stupid. I want to play Harvest Moon. So here it is. This is basically Harvest Moon, but like the Story of Seasons games, I don't think, and at least in terms of like character design and like all that stuff, they don't look as good. They look kind of soulless. So I don't know if he'll like it in that regard. But it looks like it's a better version of the game that we like. So I'm definitely going to play it, but we'll see if it feels as soulless as it looks.
Yeah, I hope not. Hopefully that turns out all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Fingers
I know.
crossed.
Yeah, so that's fun. And then two more big ones to talk about for this year. There's a ton more games of various sorts coming out. I just didn't click on them or didn't add them to the list or whatever.
Yep.
Or they're just not ones I'm excited about personally. But we got Pikmin 4 coming out.
Yes, I'm
We
playing
don't have
it.
a date for that, right? I don't think we have a date for
No,
that.
I think, isn't it spring or summer? One of those two. I think they
Pikmin
said, or it might have
4
just been
release.
2023. But I feel like they said a quarter or something.
Yeah. It looks like it just says 2023, but it also felt like they said one. So maybe we just
It
know
could
something
just
they don't
be
know.
it could just be us like filling
Yeah,
in
it just
the
looks-
blank would be like it looks like a summer game.
Yeah.
You know, so like I could see it being like a freaking August game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. But yeah, that one's super exciting. I mean, obviously it's been 10 years at this point since
Something like
Pikmin
that.
3 came out. It was 20. Did it come out second year of Wii U? 2011? I mean, 2012?
No, definitely not 2011 because Wii U came out in 2012.
Yeah.
It was like freaking 20.
It didn't come out before the Wii U came out?
Pikmin 3, no.
Just
Pikmin 3
kidding.
is a Wii U game, man.
I know. I
Wii
was
game.
kidding. I meant for the Wii U. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wii U.
But yeah. No, but it's been a while, and like Pikmin 3's, Pikmin 2's the only one I haven't played. Actually, I have it.
I
It's
never
back
played
there.
Pikmin 1 or Pikmin 2. I mean, I might have played Pikmin 1 and or 2 on the Wii at like my grandma's house because my grandma had a Wii and just got a bunch of games. That not even for her because you know that was obviously a thing that like grandmoms
Yeah.
and stuff had Wiis to play Wii Sports because
Yeah,
they're
of
doctors
course.
and stuff. But no, my grandma just had a Wii, and before that, it was a GameCube where she just got a
Nice.
bunch of games that she thought that we would like, and
That's
that was
fun.
one of the games that I think she had. And I might have played it for like a few minutes and been like, I don't care about this. But I played Pikmin 3. Funnily enough, the reason why I played Pikmin 3 is because of Nintendo Land. And I played the Pikmin Adventure game. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And then they announced Pikmin 3. And I was like, this looks like
That's
that.
hilarious.
And then I played Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 is fun. So
Pikmin 3's great, yeah. While I'm thinking about it, because I'm just gonna forget. So talking about the GameCube games that are behind me, something happened over Christmas that was fun. We and I know that this person's not gonna listen to the podcast, so I can say it. You'll see what I mean. We went to our in-laws house. Got COVID. That sucked. But besides that, went to our in-laws house and had Christmas and stuff. And at some point, we were playing Mario Kart, and Ezra wanted to have something to play as well or pretend to or whatever, but we didn't have an extra controller for her. So I was like, I'll just go in the little cupboard thing where they keep their Wii controllers from and their Wii and stuff from when that used to be set up. And I opened it up, and in there was a game that that shouldn't belong there. It was left by my sister-in-law's boyfriend who broke up with her towards the end of I don't know, sometime in the fall or whatever, and he kind of sucked. Like, we were friends of sorts, but also like he was just super pretentious and all sorts of stuff, and like just kind of a jerk, but like a subtle jerk, like gaslighty kind of person and stuff.
congrats to her for getting rid of him.
Yeah, exactly, honestly. And for so long we were like, I think he's nice. I don't know. I think so.
He was gaslighting you too.
Yeah, apparently so. But like, we were like, I don't want to, like, if she seems happy, whatever. But that's a whole thing. So, but there was a game that he'd loaned to her that he was like, you got to play this game. And then he forgot to get it back. And it's the game, it's Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door, which is quite a valuable game for what it's worth. And it was just left there. And I was like, I'm not telling him that this is back here. Like, I could text him and be like, hey, you forgot your game, but he doesn't deserve that. So until he asks about it and then do with it what you will, can I just put this in my collection? She was like, yeah, sure, go for it. So now I've temporarily at least got Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. And
imagine he like listened to this.
I know it's, if so, buddy, we can.
No,
you
don't deserve it. You suck.
But you, yeah, yeah, you kind of screwed over some people. So, you know, watch out. But yeah, in any case, that was just a funny little thing that happened and felt like sharing it. But yeah, I mean, and I'm going to choose my sister-in-law over some guy anyway. So obviously, so there you go. Funny little story. But all that to say, Pikmin 4 coming out, and yeah, excited to play it.
It's true. Same. I'm playing it.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we know for next year is Tears of the Kingdom.
It's true.
Coming out May 13th.
I don't know. I might play it maybe. Who knows? We'll see how I feel in May.
Honestly, it's one of those things where like I just don't think about it a lot of times, to where like I'm like, yeah, I think I'm excited about it, and then I'll hear literally just one sound effect from Breath of the Wild, like from when you like pick up an item or something, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta play it. And just that will get me so. What going on? I got like I had a hair stuck in my mouth. And just that will get me so excited. And so like I know it's, man, I don't have enough vacation days to just like take off time around there, but I might try to find something because
I'm scared.
Work when that game's out.
I'm terrified that I'm not going to like that game as much. I mean, I know I'm going to like it.
I know what you mean.
Baseline, I know it is going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
But I am terrified that I'm not going to like it as much.
It's one of those things where like it feels like Breath of the Wild was meticulously crafted in the way that it wound up just perfect, intentionally made, whatever. It could be that they lucked into a bunch of stuff too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's the case, but if they did, and they don't know how to recapture that magic, which Nintendo has a history of doing at times with any sorts of things, then yeah, that's totally possible that it's like they got some big grandiose ideas, but it just doesn't quite stick the landing and whatever. And that, like you said, baseline is still going to be good. It's going to be, you know, more of the same at least, but like, if the new things just don't hit the same,
either way, like the worst case scenario in my head for this game is that it's a feeds and speeds game. It's like, let's just do that again, but better. Right. And that being the worst case scenario is not the worst thing in the world. Like it'll be a technically better game, with a lot of the same things that made Breath of the Wild really good. But what I would prefer is that they make a game with the same mindset that they had with the game that they made last time, and come out on the other end with the like end result being like, in a lot of different ways it's better than Breath of the Wild, but it's different from Breath of the Wild and enough ways to make it feel like Breath of the Wild did. Which, I mean, I don't think that like they can't do what they did with Breath of the Wild. They cannot do it. It is impossible, because especially like for me specifically, somebody that like, I like Zelda's fine. 3D Zelda games are mostly miss for me, but for the most part, like when they come out, I like them. You know, like when Ocarina of Time came out, I liked it. I soured with it over the years. But when it first came out, it was fun. It was fun. But when Breath of the Wild came out, I was at the point where I was like, I have come to the conclusion that I don't like these. Like, I like 2D Zelda games. They're fun. But at this point, there is more than enough evidence to conclude that I do not like 3D Zelda games. And then Breath of the Wild came out and was like, you're an idiot. This is the best game. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, like that sort of stuff. So, like, I'm not in that place anymore where a new Zelda game is coming out and I assume I'm not going to like it. and then I like it a lot, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Now I'm expecting to like it. So like either it comes out, I'm expecting to like it, I like it, and it's fine. I'm expecting to like it, I like it way more than I'm expecting to like it, and that's ideal. Or I'm expecting to like it and I don't. And that would suck.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
No, that's tough. I think the thing I'm still the most confused about, I guess, or just like hesitant's the wrong word, but in that direction, is the whole like Hyrule being the same Hyrule situation. Because sure enough, like anytime we've seen footage of ground level Hyrule, obviously a lot of stuff's going to take place in the sky. And to me, like, I think I don't have a grasp of just how much stuff is going to be up there, because it kind of feels like how much stuff can you put in the sky? And like technically,
there's
as much
a lot
as
of
you
space up there, man.
There's a whole lot of space. And so like but the ground level, just I don't know how different or similar it's going to be. And like, I mean, for what it's worth, though, you know, like even games that are like Second Quest or whatever, where it's like you go around the same place and items are in different spots or people are in different, like whatever, you know, that can still be interesting. And also, I still like haven't played Breath of the Wild in and of itself in quite a while now. So that means like even just going back to those places, we'll get to be nostalgic again. So that's got some stuff going for it, but I'm still just curious how they plan to do that, because it's just doesn't totally make sense to me. But yeah, I do hope, like you said, that they just get to reinvent the wheel in whatever ways they can that turn out well, you know? Yeah, I just don't know what all those are going to be.
I'm hopeful.
Hopefully some cool stuff. Yeah.
But scared.
Yeah. For sure. So, but yeah, those are a lot of the games that we know of coming out next year. So there's two different directions now that we can kind of go in. Number one, we'll come back to the next thing that I have in the doc. We could talk about now. Sure, we'll do that and then segue into other things based off of that. So there was an article that came out last week, something like that. Yeah, 2 days ago. That counts as this week. A journalist claims that Tears of the Kingdom could be the last major Switch game.
What journalist?
That is a good question. I read this sort of two British video game journalists, Christopher Dring and Andy Robinson. I've heard their names before, but have stated on Twitter that they have heard from sources that the highly anticipated Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom could be the final major release for the Nintendo Switch, with the next system sellers making their debut on the Nintendo Switch's successor. While Nintendo clearly have big games in the works for the Nintendo Switch this year, including Fire Emblem Engage, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and Pikmin 4, the journalists claim that these aren't massive system sellers on par with the likes of Zelda and Mario, etc. As always, this is a rumor, and of course, Nintendo is a highly secretive company, so who knows what they're up to. So that's the article.
This feels like such a nothing statement. Because like they can kind of like talk around any scenario, you know, because like we still know that Metroid Prime 4 is supposed to come out, right? Say that game sells a lot. It's not good. I mean, I doubt it's going to sell as much as Breath of the Wild, but I mean, I doubted that Breath of the Wild is going to sell as much as Breath of the Wild before Breath of the Wild came out. So who's to say? But that's one. Two. How do we know we're not getting another Pokemon game between now and the end of the Switch's life? Yeah. How do we even know that the Switch's life is coming anytime soon? If they think that the next Pokemon game or whatever they do, assuming that the next Pokemon game that they do isn't Gen 10, is going to be a cross-gen release, they are insane. So it's like I feel like this is wishful thinking.
Yeah, and there's a couple of ways that you can there's a good phrase for it, but like, you know, retroactively basically backtrack this and be like, oh, well, what I meant with that was in a way that, like, yeah, for example, Metroid Prime 4, I mean, even if it's cross-gen or something like that, you know, if next gen's coming soon, like it's still going to come out on the Switch.
Right.
But I'm sure wouldn't consider it a major Switch game, even though it obviously is a major Switch game. But like in terms of sales potential or whatever, you know, like basically like what do you count as a major Switch game? Because like to me, if what they're saying is Mario and Zelda, then I think Zelda, Mario, Animal Crossing, Smash, Mario Kart, and that might be it. Splatoon, you know, and obviously Pokemon, but you know,
Right.
so I could easily see none of those other ones coming. Like we're not going to get another Smash, we're not going to get another Animal Crossing, we're not getting a new Pokemon game next year, DLC for sure, but that wouldn't count in their list either. And like I could see a Mario game coming out next year for sure, but you know, whatever. And then what was the other one I said? Mario Kart. Yeah, obviously we're not getting a new Mario Kart because the DLC is coming out. So like, I think it doesn't give the same kind of like something about the way they're saying that makes it sound like, yeah, this is the last game that's coming out. You know, it's in May. So like you're going to have a new system coming out like really soon after that, which could always be the case. But I think even if what they're saying is accurate, the implications are just not as cut and dry as that, because we've had plenty of years where like 2018 Smash was the only like big Nintendo game really that came out that year. Similarly, Zelda would be the only big Nintendo game that comes out this year, and then you've got plenty of other stuff supporting it. And there's been a bunch of other years that have been more of the same, where like 2020 didn't have, I mean, had Animal Crossing and that was it. And everything else was like smaller tier Nintendo titles. And, you know, that's fine.
I mean,
I
would say every year of the Switch was similar in the sense that like there's
had one, maybe two.
There's a bunch
like,
there's a bunch of like smaller stuff. There's always at least one huge game. There's always 2018 was Smash Brothers. 2019 was Pokemon Sword and Shield. 2020 was Animal Crossing. 2021 is Pokemon again. 2022 is this game.
Pokemon again. So that's 2023.
I mean, 2023. Yeah. And 2022. That's why I was Pokemon. That was 2022, and then 2021 was what came out in 2021.
I mean, also technically Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Yeah, Arceus came out at the end. I mean, the beginning of last
2022.
year.
Yeah. And 2021 was kind of weird because it was like
it was 2020 fall over. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but even then, prime example of like a whole year that if you're not counting Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl just because we decided to not count it, then there wasn't anything that year in terms of a major release. Yeah. So, you know,
and like could have been like, oh, well, there's no huge release in 2021, so that means Switch is winding down.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that said, I think, you know, the other side of this is like, obviously this is implying new hardware, whether that's 2023 or 2024. And I do want to talk about new hardware in this conversation. So, I think at this point, it's entirely feasible and probably realistic to think that the next thing is like on the horizon of some sort. And the timeline to me, like just kind of jumping the gun on the conversation, to me, the timeline that doesn't quite make sense is to try to replicate the Switch timeline exactly. Because it made a lot of sense for the Switch because the Wii U was just doing awful. Yeah. So like they wanted to get their market share up even during the holiday season. Right. People bought more Wii U's probably that holiday than they would have because of the Switch, even though that doesn't make sense because the Switch is coming. But like, I bet just like for Nintendo hype alone of like, oh, let's just see, you know, get the Wii U before it's gone. I don't know, something. I'm sure Wii U sales were up higher than they would have been. I don't know if that's true. So then, you know, announce it in October, it releases in March for the Switch. That was great. Now, if in 2023 they announce in October that the Super Switch is coming, and then in 2024 it releases in March, then you've got like 6 months of great, I mean, at least 3 months of like great system seller months in the holidays that people are less likely to buy a console because they're more likely to want to save for the next one and stuff. And I'm all for releasing hardware earlier in the year to like build up stock for later, you know, to where they could announce it in January for all I care, and then release it in May or June or something like that. but I think they just wouldn't want to shoot themselves in the foot. So I personally, unless they announce new hardware within 2023 and it releases holiday of 2023, which I'm hesitant of personally. Unless that happens, I don't think we see new hardware this year at all.
Yeah,
That's
same.
me.
And I don't think we'll see new hardware the same year that we get new hardware. I don't think we'll see new hardware within 365 days of when we see the new hardware.
Interesting. That's
when
a long
we hear
time.
about it.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see Nintendo when they're ready to start winding down, being like, all right, this is the last big year for this console. We're working on the next thing. It's project whatever the heck they want to call it, you know? And then they drip feed it in the way that they've done with pretty much every including Switch. That was very drip fed. It just felt like it came out of nowhere because they talked about NX for like a year plus.
Yeah, right.
It just was like, it seemed like it came out of nowhere because with Wii U, they just went radio silent. And they're not doing that with Nintendo Switch, right? Like there's still going to be Switch games between when the next successor, whatever it is, comes out and the interim, you know? But I do think that it's not just going to be we wake up tomorrow to a Nintendo Direct of them being like, yo, the Switch 2's out or whatever. We're going to know that they are actively working towards releasing new hardware before they do it. And
in the same way that like we saw the tweet or whatever Instagram post or something for PS5.
Yep.
And it was just like PS5. And then, you know, eventually that was probably like 8 or 9 months, I think, between those two things. Could be wrong about that. But like, yeah, I think we're definitely gonna also, I mean, hear actual rumblings from people. Like at this point, I don't know that we've heard any like there is new hardware that's being worked on kinds of rumors from anybody. And so like for that tells me that we're
way farther out than people want us to be. Like not even that people are leading us to believe, because I don't think anybody reputable is leading us to believe anything. There's just a lot of people being like, yeah, Switch feels long in the tooth for me personally, so I'm going to say that we're winding down. Because me personally, I'm over it. So next thing, please. You know, and it just does not work like that. It has never worked like that. It will never work like that. It does not matter, especially for a successful platform. It doesn't matter when the hardcore fans want a new console. It doesn't. It matters when the general populace wants a new console. The hardcore fans are... Go for it.
No, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
The hardcore fans are like important to like the success of a new console for sure, right?
For sure.
But Nintendo's not sitting around, or anybody, Sony, Xbox, they're not sitting around waiting for their consumers to be like, okay, next thing, please, you know, because like,
I mean, it's like if you like you have a bunch of people like push a car to like push start it or whatever, I don't know, and then they get it up to speed. It'll take way more effort for those same people to go stand on the other side and slow it down. And like, they'll get run over by that car, you know, like same kind of thing. Like once the momentum's going, then like, it's going to keep going for a while. And they're, you know, Nintendo so far isn't seeing the drop off. Like they don't want the drop off.
Switch still has the same MSRP that it had when it launched. In fact, it went up. The OLED is $50 more, and it's just a better screen. Like I've been at Target before where somebody's like, I've just overheard somebody be like, I think I want to buy a Nintendo Switch. And they're like, and someone was just like, yeah, this one's that one. And then that one's just that, but it's a little bit better. And they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll buy the better one. And it's like, all right, you know, if it's really that easy, that's, I don't know, just funny. And like, also it was funny being at Walmart, or I went to Best Buy today to get this stupid internet thing that's not doing a whole lot better, but I'll figure it out. But like seeing Xbox Series S is at $250 when the Switch is still at $300, it's just so crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
but I mean, that is true. So like to counter my own...
It's not crazy because it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. It's just crazy to me that people that are like self-described like gaming enthusiasts and experts see that unmatched momentum. We have never seen that before. A console being $300+ for what? Switch has been out for like 5-6 years.
Yeah,
it hasn't dropped in price at all. That's crazy. But it's slowing down. It's on its way out. It's on the death's door, man. we still haven't gotten real Black Friday sales. They have been giving us the same bundle at the same price for the last half of a decade.
I mean, and to counter my own point, that would be an easy way to do the thing that I said that they probably wouldn't want to do, is that like they do announce the Super Switch or whatever in October to release the next year at some point. So that means they could be talking about it throughout this year a little bit, announce it in October. It comes out in, April or something like that. But that holiday, like start rolling out all the red carpets and stuff for the Switch where like price drops and like, whatever things you need to do to like get the numbers up even higher than they've been before, because like, like let's get them now. But I think the really important thing is like, I cannot envision a world. And if they do this, then like, please don't, but where the next gen is not cross gen, like if whatever comes after the Switch is not, and I think for what it's worth, we talked about Switch Pro and all this stuff so much. Your theory that I think is exactly right is of the like OLED was going to be the Switch Pro, but chip shortages and stuff. So it just didn't end up being that. And in my mind, that just pushed it further down the road. I think realistically at this point, they probably just were like, whatever.
I think it might have did a little bit of A, a little bit of B. Like they probably fully intended to do a Switch Pro. And after a while of them being like, initially they're like, all right, well, we'll just wait this chip shortage out. And then it got down the pike a little bit, 6-7 months of no headway made. They're like, let's just go to the next thing, exactly. Rather than like them canceling the thing and being like, oh, well, we put out the OLED. Guess we're not doing a Pro, That again to me feels like wishful thinking. That people that are like super enthusiasts are like, well, I don't want to feel pressured to buy a slight bump. If I'm going to buy a new thing, I want to buy a new thing. But I don't think that makes sense in the world that we live in, where again, the base model, the suggested model that you get when you go to a store costs more money than it did to buy a brand new Nintendo Switch system in 2017. And it's not technologically superior. I mean, in some ways, it has like a more marginally modern chip than it launched with. But it is not a leap of any sort in terms of computing power or anything like that. That says to me that they had plans to drive this further, not to peter out.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing, going back to the Kimishima 10-year lifespan and like Switch family and that kind of stuff, I think, that supports that pretty well too, where it's like, they probably did plan to be able to ride it out a little bit longer. And now within like it being their only console, they probably can't, not can't, they definitely could. But in terms of like transitioning seamlessly into the next console, I think because they couldn't do the Pro when they wanted to, or that kind of a thing, probably that pushes, next gen up a little bit. But I think still like, even if it's a situation where next gen, I think at this point, next gen counts as a different SKU, or a different family or whatever, probably on their Nintendo sales page,
right?
Where instead, as opposed to Game Boy and Game Boy Color, where they just bundle them together and stuff. So they start that number back over at 0 in terms of the numbers of sales and stuff like that. Whereas if they'd done a Switch Pro, then it would be kind of all the same thing. But there's no chance that they're going to just take the Switch off the market and not have the two sell side by side for 2 years, at probably
Maybe
easily,
longer than that.
and maybe longer, especially depending on how similar or different the new one is, and how many completely exclusive games they have to the new one. Like if it's a ton of completely exclusive games, then like I guess I could see that where they try to phase the old one out just to not have too much confusion there. But I mean, I think like the standard seems to be, not that Nintendo goes by standards that often, but like 2-year cross-gen kind of thing feels reasonable. And so that means they have 2 more years of like Switches being cheaper and cheaper to buy and more like readily available for just like impulse purchases and stuff like that. So like,
I think it's going to look different than that. Like if they were to pull the plug tomorrow or next year, right? With the momentum that Switch currently has, having not had any price drops, its momentum is going to be more like PS2 like, where they didn't make the last official PlayStation 2 game until well after the PlayStation 3 was out, like was petering off, or petering out. That's going to be the Switch if the next platform is actually as close as people want it to be, because they will be able to do what they tried to do with the 3DS, where the market was showing signs that they were tired of the 3DS by the time they tried to make it like a second pillar to the Switch, and being like, we're not done with 3DS just yet. We're still making, ports to that console, and it's going to be your little brother's first console or whatever, right? And nobody bought into that. But now with the Switch, they could potentially do that and say, okay, you want a $100 console that has some of the best games ever made? There you go. Like that's Switch Lite right there. A freaking $200 Nintendo Switch OLED. Like I think that is going to drive 10, 15, 20 million more units. So easily. Like depending on how far out that is, I think that would probably be the potential future for the Switch. I don't think they so much care in the way that Sony and Microsoft, when they transition their next thing, they're trying to make sure that their software moves units in the interim where people don't own the consoles that their new games are intended for, right? I think Nintendo wants the opposite, where they don't want their current system or their console that's on their way out to cannibalize their new one, because they know that if the only things that are on the shelf to buy the new game is the one that is cheaper and the one that costs more money, their consumers, in terms of like the masses, the people that are buying every Pokemon game, even though every Pokemon game people say is worse and worse, they're just going to buy the one for the console that they have. And the parents are just going to be like, oh, the Switch is $200. All right, cool. I'll get Breath of the Wild on that one. If Wii U wasn't a failure, the best-selling version of Breath of the Wild would have been the Wii U version. I think that they are at risk of that happening. If Metroid Prime 4 is a cross-platform game, the best-selling version of the game, at least for the first few years of its life, is going to be the Switch version. And I don't think 100%. They want that. So I don't think that there's going to be much of, if at all, a cross-gen life in that way. I think that it's going to be backwards compatible, but I don't think that the launch games for the next thing are going to all, if many at all, come to the Switch and also the next thing.
And I guess I should say it, in terms of cross, because that's a good point. Like, I'm more mean, I guess, even that. Well, more backwards compatible, I guess, is the right terminology, because there's going to be, like, at this point, the whole thing of the Switch not being powerful enough and stuff like that, like, developers are going to start developing games for the next system. And I don't think those ones, like the Switch won't be able to play those games. And that's fine. You know, that's the way it should be with new consoles and stuff. And probably there'll still be like Switch games come out and those will be able to be played on the next one, the same way that like you could play GameCube games on the Wii, and because it's backwards compatible. That's the whole thing. But yeah, I'd forgotten that was kind of the way that it worked with the other systems, where like they were still putting out the newest games on their old systems as well, which, you know, I think there will still be games coming out, but it'll be like the smaller, you know, like just, I mean, probably tons of indies and third parties of some sort still, where it's like they're still in development right now and they're just making their games. But that also means those games are going to be on the next system as well, which is, you know, awesome. The one thing that is, I guess, interesting too is that like if Nintendo's thinking in the direction of Apple and stuff like that, then like, yeah, they might just not be trying to, again, make there be as much of a difference between the two. Of course, there are games and apps that only run on iOS 16. And if you have something older than that or a phone that can't handle it, like, okay, sorry about that. But you know, everybody gets that at this point. And so similarly, there's just going to be games that only run on the next thing. But but the ecosystem kind of just carries over, and you know, that's
I think it'll be super seamless to go from Switch to the next thing. In terms of like, oh, Breath of the Wild, I'll play that. But it's not going to be like, oh, friggin' Tears of the Kingdom's follow up, that's coming on Switch too, right? No, like I don't think Splatoon 4 is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. You know,
totally agree. So, I think the Switch in and of itself will be more of like a legacy platform with a lot of just a big library of stuff that's there and might as well keep selling it. But at this point too, looking at the numbers, Nintendo Switch is at 114 million sold, and we have
this is
holiday
before
that just happened.
This
is before holiday. So that, you know, easily all of their holidays,
that's where they sell the bulk of their sales for the year.
Have there been any holidays that are fewer than 10 million? Yes, probably the first one for sure. But since then, I don't think so. I think it basically every holiday's been at least, you know, in the close to 10 million or whatever. So they're doing pretty great. Switch console sales by quarter? Question mark. Maybe that'll have that information somewhere. Yeah, it does. Okay, I just wanted to see this. Oh, and the last thing, well, I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, first holiday was 7 million. Next holiday was 9.4 million. 2019's holiday was 10. Then 2020 was 11.5. 2021 was 10.6. And we don't know for 2022 just yet, but I think somewhere in obviously the 10 million kind of range is to be expected. So it was the best. I mean, it was the best selling console in most regions for a lot of things.
Yeah,
so.
Best selling console. It's like top 5 Black Friday thing.
Right.
It was,
and that's with PS5 having way more stock and stuff too. So like, it's not like
they're saying the shortage is over.
Constraint issue.
Yeah. And also they just launched their fastest selling game ever. So
yeah,
you know, like
it's nuts. Yeah. So there's a lot of things. Okay. So to finish up the Switch successor thing, let's first podcast of the year. Place our bets of when do you think the official announcement could be 2075 for all I care, but just calling from right now, just a random day. When do you think the announcement for the successor console will be?
The next announcement in terms of what? Like
the official, like when Nintendo says,
or they announce intent. Like, is this the Project Cafe announcement or the Wii U announcement?
Yeah. That's a good question. We can say both. So either one, you know, like,
I could see the like project, whatever they call it, happening like either end of this year or like sometime next. I don't think we see, like I said, I don't think we see the full on announcement for at least a year between when they announce intent and like when they show us logo, you know.
Yeah.
And even that, I don't necessarily think will be within like 8 months, you know? Like
Yeah.
if they tell us E3 that they're like, yo, we're working on project, whatever the heck, right? A year from then at the next E3, we see logo. We see if it has a different gimmick, we hear about that or whatever, right? And then they're like, all right, see you next year with video games. You know, like I could see this being a thing that is like that takes a while. I don't think it's going to be like this like neck break pace.
Yeah. I think especially considering the like internal the project blah 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 kind of a thing. I think thinking in the direction of shareholder meetings, I could see honestly as early as the shareholder meeting for the end of, so like in a couple of months for this one, just the intent of like, we are working on the next system, just like that much, whatever, which like they've said before, we're always working on new hardware,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. But like specifically saying like, we're working on the next system because like, that's going to get all sorts of buzz and like investor money and stuff like that right at the end of their, fiscal year and stuff. And then and then I don't think we see anything throughout this year, like actually see it, or anything like that. But I think similar kind of thing, similar cadence, that before the, maybe even during the investor briefing or whatever, like within that period of time, before the end of the fiscal year for next year is when we see the reveal for the thing. And then it comes out, I don't know, like some point mid 2024. I like the idea of it not coming out. I mean, I'm just being, just for me, I like the idea of it not coming out in holiday and having people scramble just throughout the holidays and stuff like that. But that by the time holiday comes out, like they figured out, some supply chain issues and stuff like that. So that's,
I think
that's my timeline that I think, but
I think if it comes out springtime, summer, it'll be 2025. I think if it comes out like holiday, I think 2024 at the earliest.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that we'll get it that early.
Yeah.
Like the thing that would happen that I wouldn't be shocked, like I would be like, yeah, that checks out, is if we get it holiday 2025. Anything before that, before holiday 2025 is like, damn. Like they were ready, but
Which that's the big
lean
thing,
more towards them like biding their time, and we're a few years away than I do. All right, we're definitely getting this. They're going to make a hardware announcement soon, maybe that's just me.
No, for sure. And I think, like you said, as far as them being ready, like if they're actually ready, whenever they're actually ready, I'm fine. Like, I don't care. They can announce and release it tomorrow.
Yeah, same.
But what I don't want is for them to rush it just because they feel like they have to, because they don't, like, again, like there's people that want it for sure. But in terms of sales and also in terms of like competition, like they're still, PS5 and Xbox Series have been out for 2 years now, and Switch is still outpacing them and stuff. And it's like, yeah, sure, that like that could die down, but also Tears of the Kingdom is gonna, like bring that back up some, and then they could start doing more sales and stuff. So like if it's just about sales of the consoles, then they can keep, that tide afloat for a decent chunk longer. But then also like software sales are still great, and so whenever it's ready, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that's the timeline that I'd see. It's like releasing like mid 2024 ish. So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, last things for 2023 is just like I don't know, what are some expectations or hopes or whatever for like other things to happen this year? Well, as we close up this topic.
I mean, really, honestly, the only thing on my mind right now in terms of like releases and what I need and what is the Pokemon DLC. I want to see that. I want to see what they're going to do there. I want to see the Splatoon DLC. Hope they do something neat and cool with that. And apart from that, like whatever new games, like I'm here for whatever. There's no like specific game that I need from them right now. I'm satisfied with Pokemon and I want to play more of it. So
Nice.
for the new releases, if they're going to give me anything, yeah, give me DLC for Pokemon. And I'm back on Splatoon. We'll talk about that when we talk about the games. But yeah, the Splatoon 3 DLC with the story content, and I would assume a decent amount of like multiplayer stuff as they did with the Octo expansion. Yeah, I want that. I don't know what to want for a game that is completely new, you know, because like I don't know, since we haven't had the like beginning of year, here's what to expect direct. I don't know if we can expect things like a new Donkey Kong, a new Mario, you know, like that sort of thing. But apart from what we know for sure, it's just a DLC that I want.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, as far as things that I like personally want, I mean, there's always the like Golden Suns and stuff like that, which I mean, for what it's worth, Camelot timeline wise, we could be close to at least seeing that if it is Camelot making it, and hopefully they'll do a better job than they did with certain other games. But again, not that those games were bad, but they were just like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back though, because especially after Mario Strikers had what happened to it, and Next Level Games did such a good job with Luigi's Mansion 3, I'm not going to blame Camelot for Mario Tennis Aces being same as Mario Strikers. Like foundationally, it's a great game. Like it's so much fun to play, but just scope wise, it's just like disappointing compared to what it could be using the exact same foundation. And I didn't play enough Mario Golf Super Rush, and actually games we're playing, I'll talk a little bit more about related things, but I might end up playing a little bit of it. But it seemed like it was, you know, it was good, but like some of the same criticism for sure, where it's just like a little bit shallow compared to what it could otherwise be. And then Mario Strikers, same kind of thing. But using Next Level Games again as like the example of that, where even they fell to the same fate. It's obviously seems to be just Nintendo is telling them exactly what to like, here's what we want. And maybe they're even like, can we add this in? And Nintendo's like, nah, I don't want to spend money for that. Like, for all we know, you know?
Yeah.
And same for the Mario parties being the exact same way. Like it's obviously intentional. So that means good things potentially for what Camelot's still able to do. Fingers crossed. So
yeah,
Golden Sun, hopefully.
That'd be neat.
But then other than that, yeah, I mean, like, I think great to, I mean, there's a whole list of things you could go down, but like, I'd love to see any old IPs come back, which includes Donkey Kong, which includes F-Zero, whatever, you know.
Oh,
like,
we didn't even freaking talk about
that
Kid
rumor?
Icarus. Yes.
Oh,
Kid
you're right.
Icarus.
Oh, and Kid, that's two rumors because there's also an F-Zero one.
Oh yeah, true.
I'm
down, but like, I don't care as much.
One.
The Kid Icarus, yes, give me that.
That seems
I
a lot
want
more
that
likely.
very much so.
Yep.
I'm super down for that because I like that game with bad controls. Imagine how good it will be with not.
Honestly, if this could be a year that like, so honestly, 2020 outside of 2022, this
It's
year
all
we
the
just
same.
had,
It's all the same thing.
It is, yeah. was a great example of a year that like the two Pokemon games were huge games, and then otherwise it was just a bunch of like, there was a bunch of pretty good releases in there. You know, Kirby and stuff was like, that was awesome. You could tell from the Game Awards how just like a bunch of Nintendo games were just in there for being good. So similarly, you know, if there's just a like Tears of the Kingdom is coming out, that's the only big hitter that I need for a year. And then otherwise, like, a cool Donkey Kong, which, I mean, some of these games obviously are still pretty big games, but comparatively not. Like a cool Donkey Kong. Yeah, like the, Metroid Prime remake kind of thing or whatever, like any of those things that we've been hearing about, like if any of those turn out to be true, that would be fun to just see them happen. Like whenever that September 2021, I think it was the 2021 September Direct, where it was like, they just did all the things that we wanted them to do. They showed the 3D Kirby, N64 games, like just a bunch of things that had kind of been talked about for a while, and they just like checked off all those boxes. That was just a nice feeling. So that
it was just a Fanatics 4 video.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm just kind of down to see whatever. But it would be cool to see a new IP as well.
I'd be down for that.
Based on like the Kid Icarus kind of stuff, and if Donkey Kong or F-Zero or whatever comes back, then I don't know that I'd expect a new IP, because some of those returning ones feel like they kind of take up the same slot as a new one would otherwise.
Right.
So, which is fine, because those are great series. So,
I mean, plus this, I don't know how much that is going to factor into their video game plans, but this is a pretty big year for them outside of that too, with them further not expanding, because we already knew it was happening, but rolling out the theme park, with them doing their first major movie ever.
Yep.
I wonder if any of their game plans have anything to do with that.
I know. Like, that's what I was thinking, honestly, with Donkey Kong, is that like that could tie in great.
Yeah. Because like I don't think Nintendo is like I don't think they want to do something that is like as on the nose as like Mario the movie, the video game. Like I don't think they want to do that, but I could see them wanting to make a game that is related in some way.
Yep.
And then maybe even in the game, there's like a tongue-in-cheek, like, man, I'm Donkey Kong. You could see me in movies or something stupid.
Honestly, yeah, with the Donkey Kong thing, with just how prevalent Donkey Kong is in the Mario movie, from what it looks like, and all of the characters that are in there and stuff, like I was thinking about that earlier too, that like,
plus the new design thing, like with Miyamoto, like specifically being like, we redesigned Donkey Kong, we redesigned freaking everybody, but we're not going to talk about them. We redesigned Donkey Kong. Look at him, isn't he great? So like, why'd they do that?
Yeah, no, I think that's, to me, that feels like the best version of a tie-in. Whether it's like, it could be some kind of, even like a prequel story or a spin-off story kind of thing, or like something, that could be just, or not even that related, but I'd allow it, even if it were. So that'd be fun. I think, last thing I guess I'd love to see for this year too, is them already announce whatever the next animated something is.
Yeah. I want to see them announce a series of some sort.
Yep.
Because it's been a long time since they did something like that. And I've never seen I can't remember seeing multiple episodes of the Donkey Kong series. But I do like vividly remember the Captain Falcon, like the F-Zero, more than one even anime. The freaking Kirby anime, which is sick. And
is the like, Captain Falcon one the one that Falcon's done the dub of?
Yes, but
team?
There's more than I think it's like
it's super cool.
Falcon's angry at
it's
me.
like a parody dub kind
for
of thing,
sure. But it's like I think there's more than one. But it might just be one, and there's just like different animation styles because a different studio took over or something. Yeah, but like I got it wrong, I'm sure, and he's freaking furiously typing. But yeah, no. They did something like it before in the past, and those were pretty good, and they were less involved. How good will they be if they actually care? And where will they go? Are we going to see some sort of deal? where they partner with freaking Netflix or Peacock, or whatever. Or ideally, are they going to do their own thing? I doubt they're going to do their own thing. I think the only way that they're going to do their own thing is like a few years from now, and like their movies are super successful, and then they do the like Pokemon Company versus Pokemon cards thing, where it's like, yo, this crap is like taking off, and these companies are exploiting it. Why don't we just do ours? Why don't we just do that? I can see them doing that with the movies eventually, but not in 2023.
Yeah. But yeah, announcing one would still be very neat. So yeah, I agree. Those are all the things that I'd like to see in 2023 specifically, including just Tears of the Kingdom being so good. Like you said earlier too, that would be very, very nice.
That'd be great.
But yeah, with that, the things that we want to see right now is what games we're playing.
There's no other news.
Because we are the kind of, we kind of already covered it, so skipping over it. I'm sure there's other news, but whatever.
Let us know in the comments.
I think we already covered it, honestly, looking at the stuff that I would have pulled. So yeah,
what
games
we're
you playing? I've got a long list, but some of them are going to be short. So. Okay.
How do we want to do it? You want to go first? Or?
You go first.
Okay, so I mentioned this a little bit, but people came over here for New Year's, kind of, but not really for New Year's. It was after New Year's. Children, my brother's godchildren came over here. My nieces came over here. And they were like, yo, let's play the Nintendo Switch system. So I was like, okay, bet. I have video games. I have controllers. Let's play. So I docked the Switch. I said, yo, what do you want to play? I let the children decide. They picked Smash Brothers. And his godsons, they were like, oh, we're going to beat you up in Smash Brothers, AJ. We're going to be Sonic and Mario, and it doesn't even matter who you pick. I'm going to destroy you. And I was like, okay, bet.
You love to hear it.
so I was like, all right.
Love that.
Who did I think I picked Donkey Kong first. I was like, whatever, man. I picked Donkey Kong, and like just by how I moved, it was like a couple seconds. I was like playing the game, and their mom was like, "This is not fair." Like I didn't even hit anybody yet. Like I just like dashed a certain way, and she's like, "This isn't fair."
Yeah,
and I was like, "What?" so I was just sitting there, I'm playing,
That's
and
amazing.
I'm like trying not to hit them. I'm like, but like at the same time, I can't not, because if I don't hit them and I don't get in the mix, I'm just having 3 lives and they're just killing each other and themselves. They killed themselves a lot. It was
for sure,
impressive of them just being like, I'm gonna get you, AJ. And I was like, okay. And then they would run at me. I would jump and they would overshoot and die. Like they would just run off the stage.
Roadrunner Coyote situation.
Yes, and 100%. So that happened, and my oldest niece was like, because she knows, she understands. She's like, I don't want to play this video game anymore. And I was like, all right, fine, fair enough. I don't know if I would either. Well, actually, that's not true. I would not ever stop. I would never stop until I like at least killed me once. Like I would be tight. But no, we couldn't play that no more. So we went to Mario Kart. Mario Kart, a game that I'm well documented in hating. It's fine. I like Mario Kart, but I'm tired of Mario Kart 8 specifically.
Yeah, right.
I'm over it. Played that game. That was another game that, like, when we were racing, I was just in first place the whole time, and that was just
it's so
what was
funny.
happening.
The
And
things that like, at some point you just know like how to take turns the right way and stuff, and other people, it's just like, even if there's like no items, going the same speed, whatever, it's just like driving efficiently. It's such a boring thing, but like just knowing how to do that like is
I was like, I was not getting items because I didn't want to hit them items because they would get angry.
Right.
And
Yeah.
typically, like, these kids are not like they're young, but they're not like that young. They're like 10,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, like 10,
Yeah.
12, like around that age range for the most part.
But just
So
just old enough and young enough to like kind of throw a fit
they
if
know
it doesn't go
they
well.
know how to play video games, and they play video games, and they have Nintendo Switch systems. So if anything, their job is to bully me as the adult. They're failing, not me.
Yeah, yeah.
So we play Mario Kart, and then we play battle mode, and this did equalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't win that.
I don't know. It's
as
kind of
much.
hard, honestly.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I like Block Fort, and that's it. That's the only good battle mode Mario Kart content to ever have
It takes a
existed.
really different like brain space. We played it with our friends when they came over the other week, and like it's just like it's not about driving at all. It's about finding other people.
Yeah.
And like that's just hard sometimes. Like I'm not good enough at reading the mini map and driving around and like knowing who I'm looking for at first glance. Like it's just a different muscle to flex. It's a different game within the confines of how Mario Kart functionally works, but that's not the same.
I was like, this is happening. I can't even think of who was like. I don't think that there was a specific person that was winning. Often in battle mode, it just wasn't always me, and that was the notable thing. But they got tired of that too, and they were like, I don't want to play this anymore. So you're like, all right, let's see what other games you want to play. And the first game that they picked, not my niece, was Nick All-Star Brawl, and she's like, this is just Smash Brothers, we're gonna lose again. So I was like, yeah, no, we don't gotta play that. So we played Mario Party, and that was another game that was just like winning. There was a specific thing that so we played on the fruit board on Super Mario, the Superstar. Wait, which one? No, it wasn't the Superstars. It was Super Mario Party. That was the one we played.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
I don't have freaking Diddy Kong. That's crazy. I don't have Diddy Kong, and I was upset about that. I'm not going to unlock him though, because like I was under the impression that like if you play in multiplayer mode that everybody unlocks, but that's just because usually when I played the game in multiplayer mode, I played it online with people that unlock Diddy Kong. So everybody unlocked. But on my Switch, I don't have the Diddy Kong, so I was kind of sad about that. But I still was doing good, and I still won. So that happened.
Yeah.
And then
It's a tough thing to like sandbag the right amount to.
Yeah.
Where, like,
how do you
because
sandbag in Mario Party?
I mean, first of all, yeah, but also like, I like people who are sore winners. I don't want to sandbag if if they're gonna be like, yeah, I told you I was better than you, and I'm like,
that was the whole thing.
On purpose.
When I'm playing with like my oldest niece when she was younger, like 6, right? I'm sandbagging the whole time because she's going to be sad if she doesn't win.
Exactly.
She's going to be sad if she doesn't win. But these children, they started on hots. Like they were gunning for me from the beginning, and I was like, I refuse.
I'm not taking that.
To let you win because I know where this is going. So like you need to be humbled. That's what this gaming session is about. And so that's what I did. And then what we played next was Switch Sports. And the first thing that we played, bowling. I didn't do good at that. My oldest niece Nyla, she won. She won bowling by a lot.
Nice.
Like, she got a lot of strikes. It was pretty cool. And then we played tennis, and tennis was a time because this was another game. It's just every time I won. So we're switching teams, and people were basically fighting over who was going to be on my team. But we got to the last grouping, and that was like a grouping that was like both sides except for me. I'm here. I'm just existing. We're like, no, we're doing that again, and this time it's going to be different. Granted, I mean, I won, so I don't know how it was going to be different on my side, but Yeah, my freaking god nephew was like, "Nah, we're going to win again, but harder this time."
Right.
We didn't win harder, but we won though, and that was neat.
Nice.
And then we started to play golf, but I never played golf before, and this was on Monday, and I stream on Mondays, twitch.tv/freaking watch redirect. And well, I'll get to that. So I was like, I don't have time for this tutorial for golf, so TBD on how golf is, because didn't get to play it. But that was that. Those were those games that I played. What games did you play?
Nice. Okay, so a lot. You ready? One actually here, we'll start with the golf one too. Also golf a little bit. What was it? So I got an Xbox Series S for Christmas, which is fun. So and then I got Game Pass for 1 month for $1, and then I'm gonna figure out the best way to get it for a year. I found so that I don't have to think every month like, am I playing Game Pass enough this month? Should I delete it? You know,
just do what I do, man. Just let it rock. Just let it rock. Put it on like friggin' a PayPal account that you don't look at. Just let it exist.
Yeah.
Because it's a nice surprise when you turn on your Xbox and you're like, I could play anything.
Look at all these games
that I want.
Yeah. So, and I did play a couple of games. So I put on SSX and played that a little bit. That was fun. Golf one specifically, Ashley and I played a decent amount of Golf with Your Friends, which is the like kind of zany, fun putt sort of one. We played that, probably like 4 or 5 times over the break. And we played the demo for What the Golf, which is a fun kooky time. Well, I played that on the Switch, but I don't know that if it was one of those things where it's like, I get the idea after the demo. I don't know that I need the whole game to see like more just silly ways. It's just like a silly golf game. You've played that one, right? I think. Okay.
What about the golf game? The last part got discorded there. You did at the very end. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're good on the podcast. The podcast should hear everything.
Cool. Nice. Okay. So yeah, some of those games and some of those were on Game Pass. One that I played on Game Pass literally was it New Year's Eve? Yeah, I think so. New Year's Eve plans, because COVID again got canceled. We had big plans with friends. They were going to come over and do a bunch of stuff, and we had to tell them to not come over. But instead, Ashley and I watched the first 2 episodes of Willow, which is really good. We're really liking it a lot. Also, though, I mean, it's based off the movie from the 80s that I watched growing up. And
I don't even
really
know what
like
this is. I don't know what it is. I just know it's nerd stuff. That's all I know.
It's nerd stuff.
I only know that this exists because of you, and I barely even know that it exists.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that checks out. I feel like before this show, especially, it had kind of like it especially died out in popularity because it feels like it was the movie adaptation of Lord of the Rings without being Lord of the Rings.
I was about to say, is
Lord
it
of the
like
Rings would have been too ambitious.
The Dune to Star Wars? It's like the Dune to Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
I'd say, so more or less. Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, but yeah, it was kind of like a lower, it's like Lord of the Rings abridged almost. The original movie was like, they wasn't trying to hit the highs of Lord of the Rings as far as like just the breadth and the lore and just like how, huge everything is or whatever. It's just like kind of a straightforward story, but with a similar-ish kind of premise and similar kind of world, sort of, but just a little more truncated. But it's a much more like fun movie, like just goofs and laughs and stuff,
more
as opposed to kind of more serious tones. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, it's like has some fun, silly moments in it, but for the most part, it's got a more kind of serious tone. Whereas this one's more, just goofy throughout. So all that said, I grew up on it and liked it a lot. And several years back, like probably early COVID, I think it was actually, I was like, Ashley, have you ever seen Willow? She's like, what's Willow? And then I showed it to her, and immediately, like the first time she watched it, she was like, this is like such a comforting movie, because it just feels like all of the, it's just a comforting movie. I think it's technically it's a Lucasfilm movie, and so feels kind of within that Star Wars.
So it's the Star Wars, but not Star Wars, but not doing,
but Lord of the Rings,
but not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Exactly. So all that said, that's that. And now they have a show of it, and the same actor that played Willow, who is a little person, and like instead of doing hobbits the way that Lord of the Rings did, where it's like, camera tricks and stuff like that, they had basically the same idea, like halflings, but it's just little people. Halflings is the D&D term for hobbits.
This is a Patreon podcast conversation. I hope you people are appreciative.
So show's good. All that said, we watched some of it, and games wise, I played Gorogoa that night, which is that, like, I'd seen it around and wanted to get it a bunch of times and just never bothered to, but then it was on Game Pass and I was like, oh, cool, I'll get it. And so I played it on New Year's Eve and got a little of the ways in, and it's super cool. It's a puzzle game that uses like really interesting mechanics where it's just pictures that you move around, but they interact in certain ways.
Oh yeah. Game.
It sounds boring, and it looks from the trailers like it's kind of boring, but the further you get into it, the more complex it gets.
I think I saw that mechanic and was like, this game looks sick.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that it was out.
Yeah, it's been out for a while, and like it goes on sale pretty often. I just never bothered to get it. But I might have to get it because it was on Game Pass that day. I played it. Next day I logged back in and I was like, oh, let me pick it back up where I left off. Not on Game Pass anymore.
Oh,
so I was like, well, never mind. So that was the whole point of why it was on New Year's Eve that I played it, that mattered. That was super long-winded, but played that some. We played some Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Been playing some Pokemon Scarlet, and I did another Titan. I did another gym. And then I feel like there was... we bought XCOM because that's been on my list for a while to get, but the reason we got it is because XCOM 2 on Switch.
I didn't even know it was on. Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. No, I did. I did. I remember that was
it was on sale for like
Nintendo Direct announcement at some point.
Yeah, from like
them being like, "Yo, this series that people like a lot, it's coming to the Switch." It was one of those.
Yep, and it's one that's like been on my wish list a bunch that I just never bothered to play. And Alec read just now, who plays Pokemon this slowly?
True,
man.
Red
it's
has,
so true.
For context, Red is what, on playthrough like 6 or something like that? How many times have you played this video game?
Man, I've had such little... I mean, it doesn't sound like it because I've mentioned a bunch of games just now. Wow. I've had such little time to play games, and especially with like, I want to be able to sit down and like get into Pokemon, and I just never have time for that specifically. So, it's just chugging along here and there. But yeah, played a tiny little bit of XCOM so far. Ashley just really wanted to name some characters after people we know, because that's what you're supposed to do. And there's permadeath, so like you don't want your friends to die and all that thing. And then a couple other ones real quick is I got Sports Story when it came out, but it is
I heard people don't
buggy.
like that game.
Yeah, I played the opening sequence. It was really buggy, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for a patch.
I'm never going to play
hearing
these
a lot of people.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I'm hearing a bunch of people say like it's just not even as fun as the last one, where like at least like Golf Story was just, it was fun, it was cute, but it was also like it kind of had purpose and direction, and this one feels like it's just it's the thing that we don't want Tears of the Kingdom to do, where it's just like, here's a lot of things, So yeah,
that's sad. I was going to play that game.
Yep.
Now I got to play Golf Story. I'm probably not going to do that.
You can download it from my account if you just want to try it out. But yeah, it's Golf Story still fun. But
I feel like I'm bad at trying things. I need, like,
yeah,
if I'm
I get
going to
that.
do something, I'm doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So like a lot of times I don't even want to do it if I don't think I'm going to do it. You
I
know
mean,
what I'm saying?
especially something like Golf Story or whatever, where it's like you get the idea. Like it's a well executed version of something that you can totally envision what it is. Like the writing is good and all that stuff. But like there's some games where I've seen some Bayonetta combat before, but I didn't really know how it all pieced together. Like, is there traversal and is there an overworld, blah, blah, like whatever. Those kinds of things were things that I just didn't have answers to.
Right.
So I downloaded off your account, played it for 2 hours, was like, now I know when people talk about Bayonetta, I've got like a better grasp on the whole idea. And so I like trying things like that where I like just am I'm missing something. But when I know it's something, it's like, yeah, I would like that. But I also have other things that I like and I get the idea. Then I also similarly, it's like, I just don't bother.
I think, and I think that that's such a big part of it, right? Where I think I would be more of the type to want to just try different stuff if I didn't already at all times have a long list of things that I want and or need to do. So it's like there's never a space in time where I'm just like, I don't know what to do right now. I'll try these things, you know. So I just don't end up doing that. The only real incentive to play a game that I wouldn't normally play is on stream, and streams are already very much so by design for me what I feel like doing. So like even that doesn't end up happening very much.
Yep.
So I don't know.
It is.
Maybe something will happen on stream that will result in me playing Golf Story one of these days. Who knows?
Yeah.
But right now there's no
Probably not.
space for that.
I can't imagine much of that coming up. So yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
And I had a friend too, man. I had a friend that was so excited about Sports Story. Like he loved Golf Story and he was so excited about it. And I texted him when it came out and I texted him about that, like whatever. And as it was happening, like I've got the texts here and he was just like, man, it sucks. I was going down this path and that one broke and I can't do that anymore. I was going down this one and I was like, man, that's so disappointing. Like you're waiting for something for so long and then it just doesn't materialize. Otherwise, no, I think that's about it as far as I'm playing things. It was a lot of dabbling. And I think I'm going to try to like sink my teeth into stuff a little bit more moving forward now, but it's been fun.
I'm playing Pokemon. But differently. Me and Lee, we started a Soul Link. It's not going great so far. It's fun. It's fun, but it is tragic. So Lee, I was streaming and Lee was streaming. He started streaming like, I don't know, like an hour or two before I did. And then I went in the secret just because that's what I usually do. If people want to like come hang out and just talk. The people that are in my like the trusted group of people that I will be cool. Like mostly my logic for the secret thing is like people that are good conversation, but will not immediately try to like take over my stream. So like I'll usually just hang in there because the people want to hang out, so I'll go and they'll come through, and then that's what happens. Lee is one of those people that has access to secret, and he came in there unannounced to me. I had no idea that he was going to do this. He was like, "Yo," I was like, "Yo, what's up?" And he was like, "You trying to do the Soul Link today?" Because we talked about doing this a while ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
And Soul Link for people who don't know, and
I was going to explain it. I was going to explain it.
Cool.
So it's like, okay, bet, let's do that. So while we were doing that, we were like trying to like set up the rules and stuff like that, and be like okay, how are we going to change it and all that good old dear stuff, because the Soul Link is a co-op Nuzlocke basically, and you know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are different Pokemon games. They are not the same. So it is harder to understand how to do a Nuzlocke because Nuzlocke
specifically because of the
rules,
routes thing.
yeah, routes work very differently in this video game than they have ever historically worked. And people just have this idea that because the routes have, what ends up actually being that the routes just have a lot more Pokemon and they're like bigger routes. For whatever reason, people feel like there's just like a lot of routes relative to the amount of content. And in playing this, it feels like there's not enough in practice when you're trying to do a Nuzlocke. So we're doing it, and our rule for the route specifically is like if the route has a different name, it's a different route. So like even the things where it's like South Province Area 2, that is different from South Province Area 1. We get a Pokemon encounter on all of those things. But for the Nuzlocke, we're also doing, or for our Soul Link, we're also doing like hard level cap. Like whatever the highest level Pokemon on the gym leader's team is, that is the farthest we can go. If you go higher than that, you cannot use the Pokemon unless you go higher than that because of the gym. Then you can use Pokemon. But that's,
what do you mean because of the gym?
Like if you're battling the gym, like what happened with me specifically, there's a chance that
I see what you're saying.
Apparently this never happened to Lee. I'm not sure if it happened to me or not. I don't remember because I did this eons ago. But Sunflora during the grass gym, sometimes they get mad at you and they want to fight. I got past the level cap because of the Sunflora.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been able to use this Pokemon, but we decided with chat that it's like, nah, that would be not fair if I couldn't use the Pokemon because the gym Pokemon randomly made me too powerful for the gym. It ended up now where mattering, spoilers. But
oh no.
Basically, I want to. Oh, and here's another thing that I want to do. We're going. I want to do like a channel with that group of friends for streams like that, where I do like the like the Smash Brothers tournament video. I want to do videos like that, breaking down our experience of those things. Nice. So I want to do that with this when we're done with the Nuzlocke. So I do want to like loosely document this as I go, so it's not annoying to edit and write this video when I do that. Nice. But the first run, we picked our starters. I picked Sprigatito because I already picked Quaxley for my other run. So I don't want to do the same thing. Lee picked Quaxley because he hit a sub goal for his main run to do Fuecoco. So he did Quaxley because Quaxley is a different Pokemon than what he did. Those two Pokemon are linked. If my Pokemon faints and dies because of that, his does too. If I gotta box it because the level's too high, he does too, and vice versa. The next Pokemon that we caught, I think the next thing I caught was, I'm gonna forget the specifics of like what was when, but I caught a Fletchling and that was linked to his Hoppip, and then I think the next thing was a Mareep that I named Bab Wolf, like wolf. And the Sprigatito's name was Oregano, and I had an Azurill that's name was Boing. I think it was Boing.
Nice.
It was Boing. I'm pretty sure. RP would know better than me, I think. And then the last Pokemon that I caught was a Mankey that I never got to use because we lost. It was very sad.
Yeah. We lost the whole run. We lost like one battle. You just whited it out.
No. So what happened? Lee, because he caught the other Pokemon that Lee had, he had a Murkrow and he had a Happiny and a freaking Hoppip. Happiny, freaking Quaxley. He had two Pokemon that sucked. His Happity and Hoppip. I'm like, why would you catch these Pokemon? And a Nuzlocke. He lost the second gym battle. He wiped out. So that means I lose 2 because he whited out. And it was very sad. But we're going to try again next week, and we'll see. We'll see how far we get. Hopefully this time he catches better Pokemon, because that's not the wave. If you're trying to do a Nuzlocke, catch Pokemon that can do damage. Do not catch Pokemon, especially as your primary more than half of your team cannot be Pokemon that you're investing potential in. Hashtag Lee's fault.
Right. Especially at the beginning. Yeah, because like you need to make it over the hill to be able to get wherever you're going.
Exactly.
So, for sure.
Exactly. It's very, very unfortunate. Spread the word, Parker.
Spread the word, Parker. Lee's fault. Man.
But yeah,
rough.
We got to freaking try it again. I don't know what the cadence is for these streams, because the first one was on Monday. I don't usually stream with Lee on Monday, but he came through on Monday. So maybe the cadence will continue to be Monday and Tuesday, but at least we're going to do partially Pokemon and do the Soul Link run on Tuesdays, which is the day that we usually play Smash. We also played Smash.
Nice.
It was Smash. We played Smash. I'm going to start going to the local again, but I want to try to figure out video stuff first. Schedule for sure. That, and then I'm going to prioritize going to the local more often, so I can know for sure, like, okay, I know a short is going up, I know a video is going up, I know I need to do this for a script, I know I need to do that for a script, rather than be on my way to a local or whatever, and then something comes up and then I'm annoyed because I gotta wait to get that done. So we'll see. TPD.
Yeah.
I think that's all I'm playing. Oh, I played Splatoon too. Splatoon's fun. I'm doing freaking Team Spicy for the Splatfest.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Is that this weekend?
Yes. It's Team Spicy versus Team Sour versus Team Sweet. And I tweeted that I was like torn between Spicy and Sour. And Bob was like, Sweet's going to win, idiot. And I'm like, you're stupid. Just because you're obsessed with cake and cookies and whatnot does not mean that it's better than Spicy. Spicy is better.
I think I would go Sour personally.
Like I said, I was torn between Sour and Spicy, but I just know that in my day-to-day life, I eat spicy stuff more than I eat sour stuff. Like, I like sour stuff, but I just, like, a sour thing is, like, very specifically, like, a candy situation. And I don't really eat candy. So it just makes more sense for me to go spicy because it's truer to my life.
Checks out. And true to our life is that we like giving answers to questions. So here we go. Q&A. We've got some questions from Discord. Chronically Cow asked, if you were in charge of designing a calendar, what would the theme be?
Pokemon.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah.
Just be Pokemon I like and corresponding types for the month.
I think mine would be, I mean, that makes sense. Mine would be other calendars, just like one per month, just silly calendars that exist in the world. Just have a picture of each of them.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah, I mean, licensing fees.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to do what the people want, and the people want calendars of calendars.
I didn't know the people wanted
They
that.
do.
I didn't know that was a niche that needed to be filled.
Yeah, calendars of calendars. Spread the word. Yeah, that's what it is. Good question. GK Dope-esque said, no question. Just hope everyone had a safe and enjoyable New Year's Eve. Thanks.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah,
I hope you did too.
Ours is pretty chill, but yeah, I hope you did too. just like AJ said. Meg Man said, if you could have something just randomly shadow drop tomorrow, what would that be?
Who said that?
Mega Man.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I got discorded. The freaking Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Or the Pokemon DLC. One of those two things.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little more left field. I mean, it's not that left field, but I'm gonna say Game Boy on. I mean, yes, Golden Sun, like Alex said, but I'm gonna say Game Boy Advance games on NSO. Not liable to happen next at all, but that just feels like a fun one, and that's what I'm gonna say.
Also, Super Smash Brothers 64.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Also, GoldenEye never came out last year. It was supposed to come out. They
In
said
December,
coming soon, 2022.
Yeah, what the heck?
But
Yeah.
It
Strange. Yeah, where's Pokemon Stadium at also?
yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, it's definitely in the next couple of months. But
That's
I bet it's on the earlier
I
side.
mentioned this before, but that's probably a tweet that we should schedule. Is to promote the last video again when Pokemon Stadium comes out.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I'll play Pokemon Stadium. I'll play all the mini games, and I mean, I'll play through the little like story mode thing, because it's fun. All right, RP said, to be or not to be. That's my question.
Definitely to be.
Yeah, to be as often as possible. To be is the answer. Sometimes. Sometimes with mental health, it's harder to be the answer, but you know what? We're fighting for that. So we're going to say to be and really stick to it. Yeah, good times. Also, is Parker replacing Lee in the Soul Link LMAO? Hashtag Lee's fault.
Oh my God, bro. Please.
Yeah.
No. But
I do want to find like new year, so like I'm looking forward to a new cadence and things, and so yeah, it would be nice to find some time that I can like pop into streams or something like that. I don't know that I'd be able to commit to something as consistently as that.
No. Yeah.
But I wish, because that would be really fun.
It would be fun. We could figure out like something that we don't have to do a lot but can do every once in a while, and it's like a little fun random treat.
Yeah, that would be neat. Yeah. And last question. Inda asked, can't remember if you answered this one, but other than English, are there any languages you're comfortable holding conversation in? Are there any you'd like to be able to hold a conversation in?
No. I mean, no to the first part of that. I'm bad at that sort of stuff. Not bad at it in the sense that I wouldn't be good at learning a language. I'm just bad at wanting to. Because why? Like, what reason do me have to want to do that? Like,
so I'm somebody
I think
who,
the most popular reason to want to learn a language is that you're like going to a place. I'm not right now.
Or really interested in the culture,
So-
I guess, is the other one. But like, if also
what was the
that
other
is,
one? I didn't hear that.
if you're like really interested in the culture, you know,
Yeah.
like you're like, man, I think that Italian stuff is so cool. I'm going to learn Italian. Like, okay, you know,
Yeah,
But then
I just
obviously
have a
probably wanna
complicated
travel there, too.
relationship with culture in that regard, where it's like it bothers me that people are like fanaticize about that sort of stuff when there's like so much in most, if not every culture that is terrible. And like on the humanitarian side of things.
Yeah,
So it's like obviously there's a lot of like Japanese things that I enjoy, but I also actively am like, but they've done some pretty messed up stuff, and they're pretty messed up now in a lot of different ways. So it's like I never get to the point of standum in the meme way
Yeah.
of like, man, I really like their stuff this much that I want to learn their language, So
And
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like,
the other thing too is like, even for the traveling point, the majority of places you go, if you wanted to, like, if you're fine just being a tourist, then like you can go to the place and only speak English and probably be fine. Like,
it's true.
as somebody
But
who's gone to a lot of places,
I would never do that. I would be way more likely to go to a place and just not know anything and be confused and never ask anybody any questions ever.
yeah, right. And I think it's okay. And I also
use
say
an
this
app.
as somebody who, yeah, exactly that too. I'm somebody that can hold a conversation in other languages.
Yep.
Definitely French. Spanish is fine-ish, but yeah, I grew up in France and Belgium, so like my French is rusty for sure. But it's like random vocab words, so like I just can't remember what like certain random words are, so I have to talk my way around them. That's fine. But that said, I'm somebody that if it weren't for the fact that I grew up learning those languages by necessity, I don't think, like, my sister loves languages and my mom loves languages, and my dad also is kind of more like me, where it's like he, had to learn French because he moved to France. And I mean, but he chose to, but like, as far as like the language part of it and being excited about specifically the language, that wasn't, I don't think, very high on his list, but my mom loves it and stuff. And so, yeah, so it's just, it's funny that, again, my sister and I had similar upbringings, and she at this point fluently speaks English, French, Spanish, and then like it does quite well in, I think, German, Dutch, Italian, and some other stuff. And like, for me, yeah, it's just like, it's just funny that I don't care. I just don't want to as much. That said, a couple years ago, I was like, it'd be fun to like try to learn a bit of Japanese. And so I did Duolingo Japanese for a little bit, but it was more like a game than it was like anything else, I guess. And that's kind of what Duolingo
I think I also
incentivizes,
like
too.
subconsciously push against that
Yes.
the whole thing of like, I like Nintendo, and like the Bob thing, where it's like, it would make sense for my job to like understand Japanese so I can like translate stuff, and I have to rely on other people to like hopefully translate a thing that I'm interested in. But that just feels too on the nose, and I'm like, I can't do that.
It's for similar reasons to that. Like, I have a really weird relationship with the concept of fitting in. And in some ways I really want to, and in other ways I don't, because, okay, this is long-winded, but I'll be brief. In France, I was the American in France, and so I didn't fit in there. And that was, that was what it was. I kind of got used to it, but like, went to French public school. You wouldn't have known that I was American other than you just knew, because like had French accent and stuff. It all was fine. But definitely was the odd man out, just functionally. And then moved to the States when I was 10 and was like, oh, probably here I'll be, I'll fit in here because I'm American and stuff. But then suddenly I was the French kid in America and I didn't fit in there. And I was like, what on earth is going on? And that was the two hardest years. Well, one hardest year of my life. 7th grade, I kind of adjusted and it was fine. And then moved to Belgium and went to an international school where basically everybody else, like, I was like, I've lived in 3 separate countries. And so many other people were like, yeah, I've lived in like 12 countries and they're also 12 years old. So it's like, suddenly it wasn't a badge of honor anymore. It was just kind of like, just one of those things that's just kind of is what it is. And so it became a lot more demystified, I think, in a way that now I don't really care. Like, I think to me, it feels like I would feel pretentious for trying to learn a language in a way that I would seem to fit in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, maybe learning it just, I mean, obviously for communication, that's great. But if the goal was for me to go and be like, yeah, isn't my Italian good? That feels icky to me. Not for somebody else could do it and it not be icky. But if I were to do it, it would feel icky, So it's just a weird thing.
I just need a reason. Like, I'm not opposed to it if I have a reason. If the reason is like, just to know more things. There's so many other things that I could know that would serve me better in my day-to-day life. But if I had a reason to directly serve me well in my day-to-day life to learn another language, I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
That's basically my answer for that.
There you go. Checks out. So yeah, and that's it. That's all the questions. And that is the whole podcast.
It's true.
Was
like, comment, subscribe.
Which we also had some Patreon cast.
It's true. You got a Patreon
like
cast preview. Go to Patreon if you want to hear more of those. There's 8 episodes or something like that. We're going to record
I think so.
2 more this month. Check it out. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Later.
See you.